G'day everybody, my name is Lowell and welcome to the channel. So we've got a reaction video. This is going to be how was London founded? 2,000 years of history. Let's jump in. If you're a history buff like I am, this is going to be very interesting. So let's jump in and let's have a look at this one.
In the 1st century BC, Britain was seen as a wild country, full of mists and rain, inhabited by ferocious warrior tribes, ready to defend their land.
Sorry, that music is still a little loud in the background of this video.
But that wasn't going to put off the superpower of the time, Rome.
The first Roman to come to Britain was the great general and future emperor Julius Caesar.
In his eyes, any unconquered territory was ripe for the taking, and that meant invasion.
He actually came here twice, first on a fact-finding mission in 55 BC, and again the next year, this time bringing 25,000 soldiers.
Dang.
But even Caesar, one of Rome's most successful generals, was defeated by this savage island.
Caesar was famous for saying, "I came, I saw, I conquered." But on this occasion, he didn't actually conquer very much. Terrible storms and fierce opposition forced him back across the Channel.
The ancient Britons had won, for now. But 100 years later, in 43 AD, the Romans were back. This time, they meant business. They invaded with an army of 40,000 men and even brought war elephants. Defeat was not an option.
Imagine being in Britain, never seen an elephant in your life, and this massive animal is coming out of the water. Damn.
Within just a few years, huge swathes of Britain had fallen to Roman rule.
Yep.
When those first Romans marched up the River Thames towards present-day London, they immediately realised the potential of this vast tidal river. It provided a spot far inland, deep enough to safely harbour their ships. The Romans settled at the point where the estuary narrowed. And by 47 AD, 4 years after they arrived in Britain, a small town had been established. It was no more than a few wooden buildings spread over a quarter of a mile along the river, on the site of today's financial centre, the City of London.
It's hard to imagine London as this tiny little town starting with a few wooden buildings. It's amazing what it's grown into. Crazy.
The River Thames has played a crucial role in the story of London. And one of the first things those original settlers built was a bridge.
Today's London Bridge is a major route connecting the south with the north of the capital, and it's built at one of the oldest crossing points over the Thames. 2,000 years ago, the Romans built their bridge right alongside here.
There's nothing left of the original structure today, but I want to find out from archaeologist Jane Siddell why they chose to build their bridge here.
They settled on this side and they settled on that side, so that's why they had to have the bridge, and this was the most logical place to build it. It was narrow, it worked for navigation, and it worked for their settlement.
And so the Thames would have been key to the success of that
Absolutely.
Roman settlement.
We often call it the heart of London. It is. London wouldn't have been here without it. You could not have built a Roman city without water transport.
The new bridge was a triumph of Roman engineering.
Well, where we're stood right now is pretty much on the line of the bridge, is it?
It doesn't run parallel with modern London Bridge, which is just behind us. It actually runs at an angle, right where we're standing, and then up to the other side of the monument.
I mean, that is enormous.
Absolutely
That was
huge.
a long, long bridge.
You're talking thousands of trees that would have had to be felled to create this.
Incredibly, like Tower Bridge today, the Roman bridge could open up to allow large seagoing ships to pass through.
There'd have been a winch system.
And that would have been manually turned
Yep.
to gradually lift.
Yeah, and the weight would have been enormous.
That was state-of-the-art engineering,
Fantastic
wasn't
site,
it?
absolutely fantastic site. And it would have been part of the welcome to London. This is a city that's in your face. We want people to come from around the empire. We want to impress them. We want to say, we are here, this is Britain.
Remarkably, this crossing point chosen by the Romans would be the site of London's only bridge for the next 1600 years.
The building of the bridge marked the moment that the Roman Empire decided to make their new settlement here permanent. They designated the port as an emporium, a place where merchants and businessmen from right across the empire could meet. And they called it Londinium.
Over the next 10 years, this busy trading centre boomed. New wharves for ships to dock were built along the riverbank, and the population grew to an estimated 10,000 people, both Romans and native Britons.
That's a lot of people.
But just as Londinium was starting to find its feet, it faced a threat to its very existence.
Is that Boudica? I know Boudica was a native British
60 AD, it was almost wiped off the map. The architect of London's downfall is one of the most famous women in British history. She came from an ancient British tribe, the Iceni.
I remember my father bringing me here and telling me the story of Boudica, the warrior queen of the Iceni who wreaked revenge on the Romans. And it's a testament to her enduring appeal that here, outside the Houses of Parliament, there is a statue to her, in image of a woman who scared the living daylights out of those in power.
Boudica's reign of terror began after the death of her husband, the king of the Iceni, when the Romans made a grab for his land, ransacking the countryside, flogging Boudica and raping her daughters.
Damn. Okay.
She decided enough was enough. She and her army of 100,000 men launched a vicious attack on the Roman strongholds of Britain, St Albans, Colchester and London, by then a flourishing centre of trade, and burnt them all to the ground. Some 70,000 inhabitants were slaughtered.
The fire in London burned for days, reaching temperatures of over 1,000 degrees Celsius.
The devastation was total. The evidence of the destruction can be seen in the fact that deep under the modern city is a thick layer of charred earth, up to ½ a metre deep.
Rome's glorious new trading centre lay in ruins. More than 10 years of work had been reduced to ashes. London, 60 AD, was a burnt-out ruin, brought to its knees by the British Queen, Boudica. But the Romans fought back. This new trade hub on the Thames was too valuable to lose. They sent in troops to defend the city and set about creating a new Londinium from scratch. But how quickly could the city recover from such a devastating blow?
Londinium bounced back and became not just a centre of trade, but of politics, law and finance as well. But in just decades after the first Roman soldiers and merchants arrived, this trading emporium had become the capital of the Roman province of Britannia. This city was going places.
Roman London now embarked on a major period of regrowth. It reached its height in the early 2nd century, with buildings covering the area of today's City of London.
Londinium was no poor relative of Rome. Here in the heart of the City of London, you would have seen large stone-built public buildings just like those you'd have found in any other great Roman capital.
Archaeologists have been hard at work throughout modern London's building boom to unearth whatever remains they can before new foundations hide them forever. And that's led to a major discovery, a truly iconic Roman building.
There's one place that says ancient Rome like nowhere else. a place where the blood of humans and animals was spilt for entertainment. The Romans loved horrific spectacle, and in Londinium, it all happened here, the amphitheatre.
Yes, London had its very own amphitheatre,
Didn't know London had, okay.
and its foundations lie under the present-day Guildhall. It was built in stone at the start of the 2nd century, right in the heart of the ancient city.
This curved line here traces its outline, giving us just a glimpse of its size. 7,000 Londoners at a time would come here to watch executions, animal fights and gladiatorial combat. Having an amphitheatre like this really mattered. It showed the world that Londinium was an important Roman city.
It's amazing to think of all those Roman Londoners at work and at play in this grand new city, only 70 years after the first Roman soldiers arrived.
Oh, that was too short. We could have done with a bit more history, but that was very interesting. Like I said, you know, it's amazing to think of London as this tiny little fledgling city, you know, made of wood, getting sacked by Boudica and coming back on its feet. I mean, it's not the first time London's had a major fire and come back as well, but that was very interesting. That was very interesting. If you've ever watched that British TV show, Time Team, they do a lot on London as well too. So trying to find that original bridge and everything else like that as well. But that was very, very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, any town, any city kind of in the world has their own history. And if you're a history buff, you know, I always find it very, very interesting to see where people come from, to see how the city has evolved. Obviously, you know, if you know Britain, you know, Rome had quite a hand in that developing of that nation, you know, as a, you know, in the early days. So, but that was very interesting. Very, very interesting. Let me know what you thought of that one, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure you stay safe, and I'll definitely see you in the next reaction video. Oh, you're still here? You want more content? Why don't you check out my Patreon down here? You'll get plenty more content and some exclusive videos over there too. If not, why not check out this one over here?